Yes. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the B2 Lead conversation. Denise Ruffner is here with us today. Welcome, Denise. It is such an honor and a pleasure to have you here. Welcome. Welcome. And I am so looking forward to dive into your story and learn more about you. Denise is a chief business officer at Atom Computing, everybody, and she has an amazing story that I'm sure we all want to listen to. So, without further ado, Denise, I will let you introduce yourself briefly to us, please.
Sure. So let me start out. I work in quantum computing, but I'm not a physicist. I'm a biologist by training, which is a little
Wow.
different, and had a career in life sciences, and mid-career went to work at IBM. And it was there that I learned about computing and high-performance computing, which ultimately led me to getting into quantum computing. And being at IBM got me into quantum computing very early in the stages of its development. So it's a great experience. Um,
how,
Go on.
how, how it's fascinating already from studying biology to being in quantum computing. How did your passion come about from biology to quantum computing?
So it was funny because I hit a point in my IBM career where I realized that I liked science, and that while I was working in some more consumer or different industries, I realized that I missed science. And so I actually went went out in IBM and said, what kind of science jobs could I get? And so I had a job in high performance computing and life sciences. And from there, what happened is someone on the quantum team saw me present and asked for me to join, which was a shock because I'm not a physicist. So I had never really considered it. And then when the opportunity arose, I always look at things as, what can I learn? Can I learn something? And I felt like this was a lot of learning, which is something I actually really like. And
Mm.
so when the opportunity came up, I did think about it, but I went for it because I like I like being on the side where I have to work or I have to learn. And so I
Mm.
thought it would be really challenging, and I like that.
That's fascinating. Outside of your comfort zone, it what stimulates you to expand and learn more. So when you say, "I realize I miss science," what were you actually missing? Because sometimes this could be useful to know if somebody wants to engage with science, but sometimes they say, "Well, I don't know." So, what was exactly that you missed about science that took you to this field? What was it? Was it a challenge, perhaps?
So
Um,
I like science. I like thinking about scientific problems. I like when I took the scientific job at IBM, it was doing genomics and looking at genetic analysis for disease. And it's just something that really occupies my mind, and it's just something I love kind of within me. And
mm,
so it was finally recognizing that, I had this career, but there was a part of me that why I had gone into science in the first place that was lacking in my career, and I wanted to get that back.
so it was, in your case, something that you said was within a passion for complexity, perhaps, and being challenged by this complexity, so that you can grow with it.
Yes.
And
Well,
that's to me, it's very interesting already, because sometimes we tend to avoid what is difficult, because some people tend to avoid what it is difficult and challenging, and without thinking that actually it is what makes us evolve and grow. So you are at Atom Computing now, and you are in this field. You Did you want to become who you are today, or again, it happened with opportunities?
so when I started going to school, I wanted to be a professor. And then I realized maybe I didn't want to be a professor, and I wanted to go into business, and I wanted to learn about the business world. And funny enough, ended up in sales, which still shocks me to this day because I never thought that, I always thought I would be very technical. Went into sales, um, and liked the combination of science and meeting people. So I'm not what I call a true sales rep. I can't sell you a car, but I can come talk science and maybe we can find something that both of us can do together and it will be a win-win. So that was always kind of my evolution, was I realized that the science side was really very much part of my personality. And even at times I didn't use it and I really missed it.
Beautiful. And it seems like from what you have already shared with us that you took opportunities even if it was something that you did not expect or was not already planned or was not in your line of thinking or imagining for yourself, and you went for it. So
Well, so this is really interesting because when I went to graduate school, I had planned out my life. Like I was going to study this and I was going to do that and then I was going to go there. And I knew the next, 50 years of my life. And I quickly found out, that it just didn't quite work out the way I had thought. And I learned to be, I don't think opportunistic is the right word, but I learned that there are times when doors open and you may have preconceived ideas and maybe you need to lose that preconceived idea and step through that door. And I know there was one point in my career where I was offered a job and it was like, I don't want this job. I'm not interested. I don't want it. And I actually called someone up and said, why would I ever take this job? And they said, this is exactly why you take the job, because it's going to broaden you in ways that you hadn't planned. And it's this experience that is what will build you as a person. And so, in fact, while you want to run away from it, you need to run towards it because it's going to help you be a better individual. And that blew my mind, but I followed the advice.
that's very powerful because it is really counterintuitive. What we want to do is really run away and towards what we have already planned, as you said. And then you planned your own life, and then you had to let go your plans and answer to opportunities and take opportunities that came your way. So, if you had to look back from where you are now and thinking about what you have just said and shared, what would you say were the moment, or what made the difference in your path where you are today? So one element you have already shared with us, being open to go beyond what you have planned and take opportunities even if it was somehow counterintuitive toward. What else would you say that made the difference in your path to success as a leader and as a woman?
You
If
know,
you
I'll say one thing. I'm not sure this is answering your question, but I always kind of thought you went to school and then you were done learning. And what I found is that learning is really important no matter what degree or no matter what anything. And so I actually spend a lot of time studying, and that sounds kind of weird because, I'm a business person doing business, but I literally plan study in my day and I study a lot. And when I fly, I read a lot. And so the other thing I would tell people is continual learning and continual curiosity, I think, is a real key for all of us.
there was a way that helped you learn how to be curious, how do you choose? Somebody asked me, I love reading as well, and somebody asked me, Barbara, how do you choose the books that you read among the immense number of books and subject and everything? So I said, well, I'm just inspired, and what I want to read and what want I know more, I read. And about, what about you? What is that made you curious, and what pushed you um, to read or to learn? was a person, was the experience, or the were the event?
Actually, yeah, there was a time at IBM, when I was at IBM, where the IBM actually said you have to spend time learning every year, and we're going to measure it. And so you literally, on your annual pay review, they looked at how many hours you spent taking classes. And obviously you can't take classes full time, but there were goals of learning. And whenever people give you goals like that, you hate it. And but it was actually kind of fun because there were so many courses I could say, I'm not good at accounting. Maybe I'm going to take an accounting course. So a lot of it was, gee, this is really a great opportunity for me to be better and for me to admit some of my shortcomings to myself. And as a way to start addressing, like, I'm not good at pivot tables on Excel, or I'm not good at this. If I have to learn, why don't I start looking at things that are a little bit inhibitors for me and try to round it out? So that was how I did coursework. And then when I read, I do a combination of just what I hear from people, that if I talk to you and you mention a book, I'll probably buy the book. Will I read the whole thing? If I like it, yes, but I'll get a point of view on it. Because I do believe in listening to other people and from learning from their experience, because I think we're all I'm all on this intellectual journey, and I always love to hear what impacts other people.
That is very powerful. So we have from so far what I have heard you saying is I was open throughout my career to what was not expected and not planned. I have always be getting curious and to learn what I did not know, or leverage my shortcomings to actually expand and evolve as a person. So it seems like your path. Uh, in your path you went counterintuitive many times.
Uh-huh.
So we cannot count these as challenges, do we? If you had to mention challenges that you have encountered in your path, what would those challenges be, given that the shortcomings there were opportunity to learn and etc.?
So I think there is a challenge being a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a challenge being a direct woman. I'm very direct. And I don't sugarcoat things, which is a fault. And there are people that are receptive to me and my style, and there are people that are not. But I would just say in general, there is some unconscious bias. And there have been times in my career where people have taken me aside and go, it's not you. It's bias. And so that's always been a challenge. And I think as women in business, I view women as better performers because we have to try harder to succeed. And so I always love working with other women because I find they have tremendous energy.
And if we want to go a little bit deeper in this, right? When you encounter these biases, we have heard this so many times, right? What would you say were the challenges specifically that you had to overcome? Were the pushback, were being I don't know, fearful in asking questions? I don't think so, given that you are a direct one. What kind of challenges these biases posed for you?
I think people don't always want to hear from a woman, and I don't think they always want to hear bluntness from a woman. And so, and I haven't been willing or able, maybe is the better word, to really soften it.
Mm-hmm.
I realized at some point I am who I am. And so, there are people that are more receptive to it and less receptive to it. And I think part of the trick is to get yourself in an organization where you can be yourself and people can respect your opinion or will respect your opinion.
So, and this is definitely something that we gain out of the challenges, right? We learned who we are, and we want to speak up for who we are and express who we are. Would it be fair to say perhaps that some of these challenges, and I want to unpack them a little bit, because maybe some women that go through their own path don't realize that these are challenges and they can be overcome. So, and then I would ask you how you overcame that. So, for example, when you had these challenges and there were these biases, would you find other people being, I don't know, very aggressive towards you, or block projects that you were leading, or perhaps don't giving you space and you had to fight to get more space and more visibility? If you had to unpack a little bit the kind of challenges, what would you say?
Generally, I have to fight to get more space and more visibility. So I think it's, no, you're not going to shove me aside. No, you're not going to take my ideas and claim it as your own. So I've had to get a little assertive to make sure that I could perform. I could do what I was supposed to do. But I also want to make sure it's not that I want credit, it's that I want the team that I work with to have credit. And so I'm always fighting against people that are saying, well, I did that. And it's like, no, there's a team of people. And one of the things that I really strongly believe is if I and my team do something, it doesn't make the contribution of any individual any less if we acknowledge it as a group. So it doesn't have to be like, I'm the hero. It's like, we did this. And that's very powerful. So that has always been one of my hallmarks, is I'm not running around saying me, me, me. I'm saying, look at this great team of people that I work with, and let's celebrate that.
So if I had to pinpoint the qualities that you had to embody more, you already said being assertive in the situation, acknowledge the team effort. So being collaborative in this sense, right? I am part of a team, even if I am in a position of leadership, and here it is. So the ability to communicate and to share the fact that I am responsible, but at the same time, these other people are responsible too of what we have achieved. What else would you say a young woman or a woman, doesn't matter how young, that is on this path? What other qualities and characteristics we need to embody more in order to be recognized, be visible, and have been free to actually express ourselves? Maybe resilience is one of it.
The qualities to embody, I think the number one thing is to be yourself. And don't let anybody push you into the back or into the seat. Or, it's more, this is what I've done. And it's not to accept being pushed around or pushed away from the table, so to speak. It's continue to perform. And when I look at people and when I walk into a room, and it could be someone very senior and someone very junior, I look at everybody as equals. And I just really try to be myself and be assertive if it's appropriate, and not accept getting pushed in the background, and that's easy to say, to not accept getting pushed in the background. It's hard to do. But I really try to show up and show what I can offer, and show what the people, or what I am doing, and what the people I'm doing with are doing.
Did you find that there was a moment in your path, you are talking about be yourself, right? And perhaps learn to be self-confident. Would you say that there have been moments in your path when you actually became aware of the fact, you know what, I need to learn about myself better. Who am I really? Because in order to be assertive and to be strong and not be pushed around, as you say, you do need to know yourself. So have maybe through your learning, through your studies, or what happened there? Were you conscious about the fact that, you know, I need to know who I am in order for me to actually state who I am?
So it's funny because a lot of times you look at situations and you say, why is this working or why isn't this working? And I remember a situation early in my career where there was a woman who was immensely successful with this group of men, and I wasn't. And she didn't wear makeup and she didn't, like wear earrings, and she had a different style than I did. And I started questioning myself and saying, maybe what's wrong is I'm too much of a woman and maybe I need to be more neutral. And, and then I finally, I really questioned this. And then I finally came to the fact that I am who I am and she is who she is. And so I need to find a way that I keep myself or who I am and figure out a solution. So I've I've worked really hard to not suppress parts of me that maybe in my observations I think I shouldn't have that. But I've worked really hard to just say, no, this is it. And I need to just figure out how to do that being me.
Yeah, beautiful. So beautiful, because what you are saying, what I understand you are saying is, I know who I am, and I need to first of all accept that that's me, my style, being direct, not maybe wearing lots of earrings, a lot of makeup, doesn't matter. That's me. And if there is anything that I need to evolve and or change, is how to communicate who I am to others. And so
Mhm.
the acceptance of myself, the knowledge of myself, and being collaborative in the sense that I know how I can make it easier, perhaps for others to communicate and to relate with me. And this is, I think, is very important, because when we women particularly, we are on our own path, very often we think that we need to change who we are, and that there's something wrong with us because we are not accepted, or because look at her, she's much well received in what she does. And so we spend a lot of energy and focus in trying to see how we can change. Whereas from your experiences, at a certain point, you know what? That's it. That's me. And that's okay. It needs to do the work. Would you say, Denise, sorry.
No,
I'm
that's go on. That's totally true. Totally true.
Would you say that in this path, you had mentors and role models that helped you in actually realizing this and having the strength to be who you are unapologetically?
So I think my mentors and my role models really helped me with career decisions like taking a job I didn't want, or um, doing more learning and being more brutally honest with myself of what my shortfalls were and addressing them. Um, and I think my favorite mentor, I worked for at IBM, um, and what he taught me is he had this real ability to stand back from a problem and think. I always thought he should be a philosophy professor, um, but he was really great because he just, you'd be in this problem and you'd be like, darn it, this, and he'd be like, okay, let's look at this. And he'd all of a sudden have this great distance and kind of look at the different factors and talk about them. And so it's things like that that really impacted me and maybe taught me different behaviors or different approaches. And that was always very useful to me.
Hmm. Again, it seems like you were open to what was beyond your world and your way of doing things. It seems to me that this has been a constant that always worked
Mhm.
well. well for you. And did you look for mentors? Did you intentionally search for mentors? Did they just show up in your life? Did you actively do something so you could connect with them? How was your experience around that?
So it was funny because there were times when you had to have a mentor. And whenever I got one, I didn't like them, or not that I didn't like them. It wasn't this synchronicity. But I always did manage to meet people, and a mentor doesn't have to be someone, like a big vice president. A mentor could just be someone who's wise. And I always found some people like that in my life that could look at situations and, what I always like is someone that makes an observation that I hadn't thought of. And so those people show up and they're in all of our lives. Now, there are times that I have sought mentors as well. Actually, I lead a group called Women in Quantum, and we have a mentorship program, and we use a matching criteria to match people. And it's worked out really well. And it's funny that sometimes going to a stranger for help is a really good way to do it because it's not in the office, and it's just a neutral third party. So I like the kind of neutral mentor. And then I like being able to look around in your life and say, gee, Barbara has this really interesting point of view. I need to spend some more time with her. So, but I do really believe that all of us function better when we have a network of people that we can go to for advice. And that's something that I've always had in my life. It's not only women, it's men and women. But I really welcome when people to talk to people about the issues and how they would solve it and try to learn from them.
And so that's beautiful. So you have many mentors and not just one. And I imagine that the wisdom that these mentors bring really brings different perspective really, and opens up also solutions and opportunities. Would you encourage, it's almost a rhetorical question, but would you encourage women that are on their path and maybe that they are finding it very difficult to move forward in their career for whatever reasons? Would you encourage them to look for mentors in their life, at work, outside of work? And how would you suggest them to go about finding them? But
So,
because sometimes we don't even notice them. We say, oh, I
right,
don't know anybody.
right. I think it takes a village for all of us to make it through life. So it could be friends, it could be joining an organization, looking around on the internet and saying mentor program in this. It doesn't mean you should pay for it, although I have had business coaches before that I've paid for. Um, but it's I think the hardest part is to say I need this and to find it, and to accept that maybe the first person I meet I won't like or it won't click, but to hang in there and really say I need to have a list of 5 people that I can call, that if I have a question or I'm feeling insecure about something, that I know I have these 3 or 5 people that can help me. And I think that's really important. I think a lot of people try to solve everything themselves and they become a bit of an island, and that gets hard. It's just isolating. So I really encourage people to have their own team.
And even if sometimes my object is say, well, it's not me. I prefer to do things by myself. I'm shy. I'm really not very much into that. I think that we could. You would suggest, given your experience, open up to what is different and what doesn't sound like you, and just give it a try. Am I right?
Yeah, give it a try.
Yeah.
And not always the first try is successful, so you might have to try several times. But I believe that for everyone out there, there are people that can be a great resource for them.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Already to think in these terms is beautiful. I have another question for you, Denise. We have heard so many times that we are almost tired of hearing that men have advantages over women, especially in the career path to leadership, and all the conversation that goes around that. I was wondering if, given that you are a direct person and you are in a position of leadership, if you had colleagues, male colleagues that are in position of leadership, and you could suggest them, maybe I've done it, but if you could suggest them to change something or to do something or stop doing something that would help women um, advance in position of leadership or having a different experience of what it means to be in a corporation, what would you invite them to do differently, to change, stop doing? What would you say to them?
So I'm a great believer in kindness. And what I would love to see is men make a conscious effort to mentor women or mentor diverse people. I think that the act of getting to know someone and trying to understand where their challenges are and trying to help them is really educational, and it makes you reevaluate your approaches. And so I really love it when people are willing to try to help someone that's different and try on, a little bit try on that personality or try on their challenges for a while, because I think it changes you as a person and it changes how you approach things. So, yeah.
So, and if you had to say, please stop doing this one thing because it is really hurting uh, women's path. There is one thing that maybe in your experience you have seen that happen again and again and again, that if it stopped happening, it would be already a huge advantage. What would that one thing be?
Remove that filter. So when I meet you, I don't want to label you as a woman or as a whatever. What I want to do is say, here's another business person like me, and remove gender. So remove some of that bias around gender or around brown hair or around whatever the bias might be. So I think that all of us need to work to remove bias in our life and just try to look at a situation from a neutral point of view.
Yeah. Yes, and in order to remove these filters and remove biases, both, not even both, all kinds of people that identify in many different ways, we need to become aware of our own biases and filters that we have all the time before being able to remove them, especially the invisible ones that are so close to us.
Mhm.
Here we go. Learn about the biases and remove them. I don't know, Denise, if you have children, but if you had a daughter and you had to give her one piece of advice about how she can grow into a new kind of woman, I call this a Renaissance woman of the 21st century, what would be the one recommendation you would give her? And if you had a son, what would be the one recommendation for your son?
So I think for a daughter, I would say something like, follow your dreams and don't let anybody tell you that you can't or won't, or don't let anybody tell you. So I think all of us have dreams, and I think we should all follow those dreams, and don't let anybody say you're a woman or you're short or you can't do this. For a son, I would probably say the same thing, but I think the other message I have strongly is one of diversity and prejudgment. And so what I would say, and particularly with males, there's a tendency to prejudge, and I would try to remove that bias.
Beautiful. So follow your dreams for a girl, and therefore for women, because sometimes only later in life we decided we are ready to follow our dreams. And for men and for a son, it would be careful of prejudgment, be aware of it, and don't suspend judgment and be open. Excellent.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Anything else you would like to add? You work in a company that would like to have more women, I guess, in your field at least, right? Um,
Yes.
I'm curious, what kind of young lady or women decide to join your organization? You are a biologist and you ended up here.
Um, so there's a very interesting, there's not a lot of women in science, and there's not a lot of women in computing and engineering. One of the things that I feel really strongly about is helping other women, because I know the journey is a little bit harder, at least in my opinion, for women. And so I've actually set up this organization called Women in Quantum, and we try to provide mentorship and try to give opportunities to women around the world. Because what I want to do is remove obstacles as much as I can from people and give them the support network that they probably need. So that's something I feel very strongly about and actually spend a lot of my personal time on, because that's my way to give back to the world, is hoping that I can improve other people's lives and help them have better, more productive careers. So that's a huge focus of mine.
That's amazing. And is there any specific requirements if some young women, or I keep saying young women, but maybe any kind and any age women want to join the Women in Quantum? Is there what would they have to do?
It's free. You sign up for the newsletter. Men are welcome. Uh, Everybody's welcome, but it's designed to highlight. So when we have meetings or summits, we have women speakers. So it's designed to highlight the accomplishments that women make. I think too often um, women are passed over, and there's a lot of tremendously accomplished women out there. So trying to give women a platform to show their stuff, to show how good they are, and also to give them even just the experience of giving a talk or being on a panel, I think is just really important. Um, I'm going to digress for just 1 minute. One of my
Please.
favorite people was Francis Collins, who was, I think, the head of the National Institutes of Health in the US. He just recently retired. And he actually coined a term called a manel, which is a panel of men. And so he, in the last couple of years of his tenure, said, I'm not going to be on any more manels, and was really pushing for diversity. So when you go to a meeting, that there are diverse presenters versus just all men, or just, and so he's actually one of my idols, in the fact that here's a man who recognized and pushed for change and really mandated, if you want me, you're going to have diversity. So that was something I just really love.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it is so, as you say, inspiring it actually to see that there are men in position of power that see this and they open up the seats at the table for diversity. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Denise, is there anything else you would like to add that I haven't asked you and you would really like to communicate?
I just Actually, I'm on LinkedIn. Anybody out there that wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to help you, happy to talk to you. I believe that helping each other is how we all succeed. And so I would just tell any woman out there to to take that step and reach out. And I think you'll find that people are generally wonderful and welcoming and helpful, and to try that. So to reach out and find a new friend and get some advice. And I think it's tremendously powerful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Denise. And you are living proof that that's actually what you stand for, because I reached out to you and here you are sharing your story. So thank you so much. And thank you everybody for listening. Denise shared her story, and I'm sure it will be important and useful for many women and men that will listen. So thank you, and see you hopefully next time in another conversation.
Yes, I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank